Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
There's a lot of questions, that are going to get answered about this team, in fall camp. And it starts with, what is the identity of this team going to be? How are people going to assume roles? How are people going to face challenges?
Yeah, boy, fall camp is back. Game day is just, 25 days away, Rod? Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. And, gosh, dog, you know me well enough to know I love Pepsi, and I love Pepsi. But I got to go diet. Because I told Patrick Murphy's going to be on our show tonight. He was on my radio show this morning. He was talking about working out. I said, if I don't get back to the gym, I'm staring 225 dead in the face here in a few months.
Yeah, he's in good shape. He's been working hard.
Well, he's a coach. He's working out all the time. I'm the hardest working man in broadcasting.
There you go.
And broadcasting doesn't involve a lot of working out, but I got to get back in the gym. That's a story for another day. Rodney, one of the biggest evaluations facing Coach Saban and the Crimson Tide coaching staff is, of course, the quarterback position. Coach Saban said he'd like to make a decision sooner rather than later, but offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin said sometimes it's worth waiting, pointing to the success the Tide has had the last two seasons.
We would always like to be the one. That's the best thing. But we don't want to eliminate anything, because this has been a very strange quarterback competition over the 2 years. You guys watching scrimmages or games, even ourselves as staff, if you took a poll at times 2 or 3 weeks before the openers last 2 years, it would be mixed on who was going to be the starter. And there were times that, a guy that maybe was 3 or 4 we thought was 1 that week, and then he'd go in and not play as well, and a guy 3 or 4 would play better. So there's no timetable for it, because you got to make sure you find the right guy. And I think if we would have had a timetable, we may have not found the right guy, in the last 2 years.
In other words, getting it right is the most important thing, regardless of how long it takes. Right? We knew if we didn't talk about the quarterbacks early on, we'd get a question later, and we probably still will get a quarterback question. But let's talk about the QBs. Now that we've seen all of them in fall camp, of course, David Cornwell is slowed by that foot. There's no doubt about it, watching him on Sunday, and maybe he's lost a little ground, but he's trying to recover and get ready. But what have you seen the first week of camp from these quarterbacks? Has any of them or one of them kind of stood out for you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Our first our only lengthy observation has been on Sunday at Fan Day, and I thought all 3 of them performed really well at times. So I thought Cooper Bateman showed improvement. I thought Blake Barnett showed the ability to make some plays, and I think the freshman Jalen Hurts is a really talented kid who also made a lot of plays. Again, we didn't see much of David Cornwell, but what we did in the early part of the practice, he certainly has a very, very strong arm. But I think those first 3 are the ones to watch out for.
Okay, and it's going to go, how long do you think? Coach Saban said Sunday, the quicker the better, and then Kiffin says, well, yeah, it'd always be nice to name your starter as fast as you can, but you can't rush it.
Well, I think the next 2 scrimmages, or these 2 scrimmages upcoming over the next couple of Saturdays, are going to be really big in terms of, maybe distinguishing who those guys might be. And I really think that when we go into the season, there's going to be a chance that 2 or maybe even eventually 3 could get some action. I'm not saying you're going to have 3 different starters, not what I'm saying, but I'm saying I think there's going to be a competition that will carry over into the early part of fall at least.
All right, the quarterbacks were one of the major storylines the first week of fall camp, of course, but another major topic of conversation that just doesn't seem to go away, Maurice Smith. As a quick summary of the Mo Smith situation, he went through spring, was penciled in to be a main player in the secondary, decided he wanted to transfer to Georgia as a graduate transfer. He graduated this past weekend. The SEC has a rule prohibiting players from transferring to school within the league. Coach Saban rejected his request to be released to Georgia or any team in the SEC. And Mo Smith, as of right now, still not at a school. Here is the latest, and Coach Saban says the final thing that he's going to have to say about this issue.
We support the SEC rule, all right, of not granting guys releases to go to other SEC schools. And it has been our policy here not to do that unless there was a special circumstance. Maurice did a great job for us around here. We want to help him every way that we can, and he has opportunities to go other places outside the league, and we are supporting him and helping him do that.
All right. Coach Saban also said Sunday, listen, we don't run the SEC. The SEC runs Alabama. I know the SEC has a policy in place, but this has kind of been a public going back and forth between Georgia and Alabama a little bit. Most Miss families involved. Are you surprised that you haven't heard anything, maybe a statement of clarification being released by Greg Sankey in the SEC office?
Yeah, I think it's in his hands, obviously, because like Coach Saban said, this is really an SEC rule, and they're abiding by it. Now, I would think this. Word is that Mo Smith is appealing that to the SEC, so the SEC will have to say, okay, this is our rule, or we're going to give you a waiver and allow you to transfer to Georgia. Now, what if that happens? If that happens, then
open season.
That's right.
Within league transfers are going to happen as soon as somebody graduates.
So
they'll be playing against you.
I want to say this. It's clear that Nick Saban, Alabama have taken a lot of heat over this, but they're really only following the rule. So I don't understand why that they're getting the heat for this. This is an SEC rule, and they will have to make that determination.
Well, this is, he's got to do something quick because this kid's got to get to playing football regardless of where it's at. All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television, a couple of former Alabama players were enshrined in Hall of Fames. You probably know about one of them in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but we'll have details on another former Tide great that now is a member of the Greater New Orleans Sports Hall of Fame. Plus, Alabama softball coach Patrick Murphy joins us live in studio to talk about a big event. I mean a big event coming to the Rhodes House beginning a week from Friday night. You're going to want to stick around for that. Plus, later on, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the information on the screen on how you can get in touch with us. And you can also tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The award-winning Tider Insider TV will return right after this break. The Rhodes Stadium, of course known as the Rhodes House, has played host to a number of huge softball games and tournaments throughout the years. But next week, the Crimson Tide's home field will be the home field of the National Pro Fastpitch Championship Series. That'll begin next Friday, run through Monday. That's the 19th through the 23rd. Tuscaloosa will welcome in the best professional softball players in the world. And we're welcoming one of the best softball coaches in the entire country to our studio, Patrick Murphy, Alabama head coach. Good to have you, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, we were talking on the radio this morning, and just to go ahead and kind of set the scene for folks. Pro football has the Super Bowl. Major League Baseball has the World Series. The NBA has the NBA Finals. For pro fast-pitch softball, that's what this is.
You're right. And to have an opportunity to host the best players in the world, I mean, that's what they are. Haley McClendon, Jackie Traina, Monica Abbott, I could go on and on and on. To be in Tuscaloosa for 4 or 5 days is a real treat. And I know our softball fans are the best in the country, but I need some people from North Alabama, South Alabama, Mississippi, all over to come and watch these ladies play.
You know, Alabama's reputation for being a softball school and Tuscaloosa for being a softball town is a big reason you're getting this event. And now I do think it's important that, as you said, the fans respond and live up to that reputation.
That's a big reason why we're getting it. And I think, you know, I ran across tons of the players either at the convention in December when it was announced, and then maybe recruiting this summer, but to a T, every one of them was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be able to play finally in the Rhodes House, because they've heard about it, they've watched it on TV, and now to be able to compete for the National Pro Fastpitch Championship in Tuscaloosa, it means a lot to a lot of them.
And it looks like it could be a little bit of an Alabama reunion. I think maybe 4 former players will be here. You mentioned Monica Abbott from Tennessee, but not just Alabama fans watching former Bama players, but players that competed against Alabama. A lot of them are going to be here too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those ladies are really wondering what the reception is going to be, because we've got Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, LSU, Auburn. I mean, almost the entire SEC is going to be represented. Kentucky. But, you know, and I told a lot of them, I said, look, they're going to be cheering for you now. Now, unless you're playing Haley or Jackie Traina and Kretschmann and Montalvo, I think it's just a really smart softball crowd. They're going to cheer for good plays and big hits and stuff like that. But and like I said this morning, the 2020 Olympics, softball's back in it.
Yeah, awesome.
So a lot of these ladies are going to be on that Olympic team.
And it'll be on the CBS Sports Network, so it's nationally televised. But they want, National Pro Fastpitch League wants people to come. So they're making the tickets affordable. It's not like they're going to price you out of this deal.
No, and I talked to Galen Wilson, who's the vice president of the league, and she was saying if there's any way that we could get Alabama students to come, it's a buy one, get one free.
Oh, man. How about
that?
So
all the Alabama students, I wish they would come out and, you know, they can sit in the Brickyard and go crazy out there, but it is an affordable ticket for everyone.
You can buy tickets next week at the event. You can go to the Pro Fastpitch website and get them there. Hey, have a big turnout weather should not be an issue. Even if we get a shower, pop-up shower or two, looks like it's going to be great. Thank you so much, Tom.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
All right. When we come back on TITV, if you're anywhere near social media, you've probably seen Lane Kiffin's Bitmojis on Twitter. I had to find out what that is, Bert. We'll hear who's the real brains behind the very public account. That's something. And next, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Go ahead and dial in now so you can be first in line, because I know you want to fire out some questions. We got it for you when TITV returns on a Tuesday night here at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa. We'll be back after this. Well, those of us on Twitter have become accustomed to Lane Kiffin as a cartoon character. Right? I didn't know what these were called, but I do now. They're called Bitmojis, and the Alabama offensive coordinator uses them often. Sometimes it's referring to recruiting. Sometimes it's at the expense of another program, like where he's coached in the past. Whatever his reasoning is, Kiffin addressed his well-known Twitter account this past weekend at Media Day.
Well, I don't really run my Twitter or social media. Coach Saban runs it. And it really is just where we're at, with the generation of kids we're recruiting, and, to interact with them, to interact with my own children. It's just kind of where we're at. And that's really how a lot of recruits communicate. And I don't necessarily really like it, parts of it, because I'd rather just be doing ball. But that's part of recruiting as an assistant coach and where we're at.
Those little cartoon Bitmojis or something else, aren't they?
He's one of a kind.
All right, indeed. Let's move on. Rodney, let's get to the phone calls. They're lined up for us tonight, and going to go all the way to Lexington to talk with our buddy Kevin. Kevin, welcome into TITV. How are you, man?
Roll Tide, Rodney and Gary. How are you all doing?
Very well, sir.
We're doing well here in Central Kentucky, where we send our best high school football players to play for the University of Alabama.
Well, speaking of that, have you heard anything out of Jedrick Wills from right there in your backyard?
I would tell Alabama fans to pay close attention the rest of the week. I think you're going to get great news again from the Bluegrass State.
All right, Kevin. What's on your mind tonight, brother?
I have a quick question. Jacoby Stevens, who just committed to LSU, and I think that young man's I think his recruiting is far from over, but assuming he does sign with LSU, where does Alabama turn now at that position?
Rodney, the outstanding safety there from the Middle Tennessee area.
Yeah, the second time he's committed to LSU. He's originally from that area or in LSU, so he has a lot of family in Louisiana. But, Kevin, they've got a lot of guys at safeties to choose from in the recruiting process. D'Angelo Gibbs over in Georgia possibly is a guy that is giving Alabama some consideration, no doubt. And then also, Gary, Devin Hunter out of Virginia is another guy that's really highly recruited. Todd Harris out of Louisiana. And, it just depends on need. And it's going to be interesting to see what Alabama decides in terms of numbers, because numbers are getting really tight. And if you noticed in practice over the last few days, a guy that I've always liked, Trevon Diggs, who signed with Alabama in this past class, I really always thought he'd be an Eddie Jackson type safety. Started out at wide receiver in practices. He's continued to work at wide receiver, but also now he spent a lot of time the last 2 days at safety, or the last few days. So he's a guy that really could be a future guy to watch at that position. I think he's an outstanding talent.
All right. Thanks for the phone call. From Lexington, Kevin, now let's go to Pell City and talk to Carl. Carl, welcome into TITV.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
We're doing great, Carl.
Hey, I wanted to ask you guys, I watched a replay of the 8-8 game, and I saw this guy, I guess his name's Christian Miller, number 47.
Yeah.
Had a pretty good game. Y'all think he'll get any playing time this year?
Yeah, he got good genes, too. His dad, Corey Miller, former New York Giant linebacker. And, he looks like a guy that's, his time's coming.
Yeah. He's a redshirt sophomore, and when he came out of high school, very highly recruited out of actually Columbia, South Carolina, right there in the Gamecocks' backyard where his father played. But he wanted to get away. He was a little bit small, maybe got here about 200, 205. He's now up around 235 or so. So he's really kind of matured. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's a really fantastic pass rusher. So when you look at Christian Miller, I think he's going to be a guy that will start to contribute this year, and really his future in the next couple of years should be really bright.
All right, Rodney, let's go to Twitter for our next question. We love it when we get those hashtag TITVs. And this one is, who do you think will handle punt and kickoff return duties this season? That's from D. Corrington. Pretty good question.
It's a real good question. I mean, they have a lot of guys to choose from. You know, Ardarius Stewart's one. Damian Harris has returned kick last year as a freshman. Xavier Marks is a little guy that has a tremendous amount of speed. So he's a guy that you could look at. I know that Kendall Sheffield, the young defensive back, has worked back there. I even saw B.J. Emmons on Sunday, the true freshman running back there receiving some kicks. Gary, there's just a lot of options. Again, that is a great question, but I think it's just going to depend on, you know, as time goes on, who they feel most comfortable with.
All right, still to come, Las Vegas insiders aren't the only ones picking Alabama to repeat as national champions. We'll take a look at the first preseason poll. And coming up, if you didn't get through, hang tight. More of your phone calls, emails, and tweets right there on the screen. The information on how you can get in touch with us. TITV. Boy, it's getting closer to kickoff. We'll be back with more right after this. First place votes, and Alabama is the resounding #1 ranked team in the preseason Amway coaches poll. The Crimson Tide got 48 first place votes. Clemson just got 7. Oklahoma's ranked 3rd. It just like they took the Final Four from last year. 3 of them right there. Florida State is 4th. Ohio State rounds out the top 5. Of course, Rodney, the last 2 times Alabama was ranked #1 in the preseason in the coaches poll. Auburn played for and won, and then played for again the national championship 2010, 2013.
So are you saying that's going to happen again?
No, I'm not saying that. Just pointing it out. A fact. All right, let's go back to the phones and talk to Dale in Moundville. Welcome in, Dale. What's up, bud?
Not much, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
I went to Fan Day the other day, and I noticed Raekwon Davis. He really stood out, and also the running backs. I thought they looked really good. But one thing I was noticing on the roster, and Rodney, you might be able to help me, or Gary, but there's 2 players that's walk-ons. Montana Murphy,
right,
quarterback from, I think he's from the same place that McElroy was from, and some real good numbers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Also, Cam Stewart, a big, gigantic tight end, like 6'7", 258 pounds. Why did these 2 guys, I mean, why would they not have gotten scholarship off somewhere?
Dale, we got you. We'll start with the tight end. It's about 6'8", actually. Former pro baseball player. So it's a good situation. He's probably getting paid to come to college by the baseball folks. And, yeah, he's very athletic. He's 6'8", about 255 pounds. And, you know, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I looked out there and I saw number 83, and I was thinking, who is this? I mean, 6'8", 253 pounds. He's athletic. You know, Alabama needed some tight ends last year, Gary, and now they've got a lot of them. When you look at, obviously, you have O.J. Howard back, Hale Hinches. I really like the 2 freshman H-back types, Miller Forstall, and keep an ear out for the name Irv Smith.
Yeah.
I really like him.
And the quarterback with the name
Montana
of one of our
Murphy,
big, pretty states, Montana,
Yeah, from South Lake Carroll out in Texas near the Dallas area. And, you know, he played against good competition.
Yeah,
I can tell you that. And I'm not really as familiar with his numbers, but I tell you what, you know, when you always need quarterback depth. So it's never bad to have a quality walk-on like that. But right now, Alabama's pretty stacked at quarterback.
Yeah, got a lot of them. But you never know. You know, Del Rio was in line to play here.
Yeah, I mean, things change quickly. I mean, next year we might be, you know.
And now he might be the starter at Florida.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's go over to Bessemer and talk with John. John, what's up, my man?
I'll be the last.
Paul, I'm sorry, Paul and Weaver. Paul, I'm sorry. Got a little ahead of myself. What's up, Paul?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing great.
Hey, love your show.
Yes, sir.
What I'm calling to ask about Jacobs and Edmonds.
Uh-huh.
Which one of those are going to be the 3rd running back in rotation?
What you think?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs and B.J. Emmons, 2 true freshmen, and I really like both of those guys. B.J. was a very highly recruited player, and I think he looks really good right now. He's a physical guy with speed, versatility, and catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he has a great opportunity to see playing time this year. Again, they need Bo Scarborough to stay healthy. Damian Harris is certainly improved and looking very good. And I really like Josh Jacobs, the story of the year, in my opinion, in recruiting last year, guy that was unsung until the last 3 weeks and ended up signing with Alabama out of the state of Oklahoma. I think he's going to be a fantastic player as well. But, you know, who's going to be 3rd string? You know, it's a little early to say, but I do think B.J. Emmons is scheduled to play, and I won't be surprised if Jacobs plays as well.
All right, John and Bessemer, buddy, we got to go fast. What's up, man?
Hey, Gary, what's going on, man?
Hey, bro.
Hey, man, I want to ask y'all, have we got a chance to beat Ole Miss and Auburn this year? Later.
Yeah, John, I think they got a chance to beat both of them. You're right. Now, Ole Miss got 2 in a row over Alabama. That never happened ever in back-to-back years for Ole Miss to win. What are the odds of them making it 3? You know, I like Alabama's chances. I certainly like the chances at home against Auburn. But, you know, to go to Oxford in September is going to be tough now.
I just want to get through the next 2 scrimmages.
Yeah.
Okay? Let us get through those and get a feel for the team, John, and then we'll start talking about USC. How about that?
All right. Thanks for all those phone calls, emails, and tweets. All right, still to come. An Alabama great finally gets enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Too late, in my opinion, but he's there now. Stay with us for the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV coming back on a cloudy evening in Tuscaloosa right after this. It was a long time coming, but finally, former Alabama quarterback, the late, great Ken Stabler, has a bust in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. The Snake passed away just a little over a year ago, so his family was there to honor the late signal caller. Stabler was the NFL MVP in 1974 and had a career winning percentage of .661 over his 15 years in the league. 5 straight AFC Championship games for the Raiders in the mid-'70s, and of course, he won the national championship with the Crimson Tide too. Too late. I would love for him to have been there, but still, great moment for the family. Another former national champion with the Crimson Tide, also honored this past weekend. Former Crimson Tide strong safety Tommy Wilcox was inducted into the Greater New Orleans Hall of Fame. The SEC Freshman of the Year in 1979 and 2-time first-team All-American, Wilcox won a national championship in '79 and still stands as one of the greatest Alabama players of all time. All right, thanks to Tide softball coach Patrick Murphy for coming in person today. And Rodney, we'll want to mention too that you'll be at a men's breakfast tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m.
6:30 a.m.
Fellowship Hall at the First Baptist Church downtown, 7th Street side entrance. Come out and listen to Rod. Should be a lot of fun. All right, our close tonight, as always, provided by the Locker Room, downtown Tuscaloosa, home of the original elephant wear. Go by and see Alex Gatewood and the great staff rushing those folks, or shop online at locker-room.biz. Okay, that's going to do it for the program. If you missed the show tonight, a replay comes up at 10:30, or you can catch it anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Have a good night, everyone.